So I want to give you a talk, and I want to have a conversation with you about a thing I talk about all the time in a way I've never talked about it. Would that be okay with you? And I want to have a conversation about you and me and about what's going on in our world, and then I want to end with you and me and what's going on in ourselves and maybe how we can be a part of that world healing a little bit. Would you be down for that? So the conversation I want to have, as you could probably tell, here we go, oh, by the way, I love my board. Does anybody like whiteboards? I like clear ones. And I think in my mind as a visual thinker. So if someone was to tell me something and then they walk away that I know I want to remember it, I like write it down and then throw that piece of paper away. Because the minute I write it down or see it somewhere, I will literally never forget it. If we've met, I remember your face and your name is harder for me to remember. So when I would meet somebody, the trick I would have is I would spell their name in my head, or I would write it down, or just type it in my phone and then delete it. Because the minute that I could see it, then I could do it. So I'm gonna subject you to the inside of my mind. You okay with that? This is what it looks like when I put together talks or have conversations or thoughts or ideas in the conversation we're going to have today. And so the first one is our conversation, and you could probably get that sense, is going to be all about family. Does anybody speak other languages? Are there any okay, great, wonderful. I just thought maybe we're in a room of Americans, and it's like, no, I don't know. Anybody here speak Spanish? What's family in Spanish? Familia. Anybody in Italian? What is it in Italian? Familia. Okay, that's pretty deep. Dope. Okay, all the romantic languages. Anybody speak German? Yeah, what's family in German? Okay, well, okay. I had it. This went better in my head, actually, when I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm going to get some new words. Anybody speak a language that I haven't mentioned that doesn't sound the same as all the other languages I mentioned? What is it? Finnish. How do you say it in Finnish? Ooh, that's awesome. I'm not even going to try to say that. That's so beautiful. When I read the scriptures, and when I read the words of Jesus, and when I read the words of the Old Testament, and when I read the words of the Hebrew Bible, and I hear the words where God is describing to the Hebrew people how to create the good society, I see the word family in every verse. On every single page, I see the word family. On every single page, I sense what God is trying to generate and what he's trying to create in what he did with the Hebrew community through thousands of years and what he's doing through you and me in our life now. All that I see constantly is this constant sub-narrative of what's happening in your life and in my life of family. Now, part of the reason for that is obviously the way that I grew up. One of the most foundational verses in my life were the words that Jesus spoke, and these are the words that if you remember no other verse that we go through tonight, this is the one I want you to write down, keep with you. I almost had it tattooed to my arms, and my wife said no. So, and it's important to her that she likes my body, so I needed to not do that at all. But in John 14, verse 18, it's Jesus looks at his disciples and he says, I will not leave you as orphans. I will come for you. He says, I will not leave you for orphans. I will come for you. For years in my life, I misunderstood the scope and the grandness of what that verse actually meant. So that's the conversation I'd like to have with you. The first one is that adoption is a part of my story. When I was 7 years old, as you heard, my family started bringing foster kids into our home. So I was a 7-year-old kid that my mom sat down with me and said, we're going to be foster parents. And I remember telling my mom, I'm 7 years old. You mean you and dad are going to be foster parents? She said, no, we are going to be foster parents. I said, I'm 7. And she said, a person who needs love does not care how old you are. And so I took that to heart. I started changing diapers, and I would have a kid on my shoulders, and I was assigned to kids, and I took very good care of them. And I could change a diaper in the dark the way a soldier could field dress a weapon. I just knew what to do. And I could handle it, and I was like a kid, and I would go to stores and push a grocery cart and have a dump diaper bag. I mean, I was not cool, but I was doing my job. Do you know what I'm saying? So I didn't have any friends, but I was functional to the family mission. Because my mom said that after she had 3 of us biologically, she said that God put her on earth to be a mother. And my dad said that God put him on earth to make her happy, so off to the races they were. And I don't know how she found him. So some people ask me, how do I find a guy who wants to make me happy? I don't know. He's a weird one. So we had 36 foster kids in our home, which was an extraordinary and unbelievable experience. Because we got to give immediate family to kids who had gone from home to home to home. Kids who had their fingers broken by indifferent mothers and boyfriends of those women. Kids who would come with burns on their faces where they would take curling irons because they wouldn't stop crying and hold it on their forehead to see if it would quiet them down. Our home became a place where we absorbed brokenness for 7 years, and we just carried it, and we just held it. And in that place, I got to watch God do an extraordinary healing in the lives and in the souls and in the bodies of these babies inside of our home. And I was like a father. I absorbed that role as their dad, as their little brother, as whoever it was, that I was going to protect them and love them. But then as the foster care system goes, as dysfunctional as it is, as it moves, is those kids got moved to a next of kin that they didn't even know 2.5 or 3 years after being with our family. And they were taken from our home to go through the next process and the next process and the next step and the next step. So when we started to realize that was just, our family couldn't absorb that brokenness and then be broken again too much. We needed permanence. If we were going to be a part of that solution, we needed to take an orphan. We needed to take a person who needed adoption and give them a permanent family where no social worker or police officer was going to take them out of our home. And so we started adopting. We adopted, as you saw in the video, 8 kids from 5 different countries. I say 6 different countries sometimes because we consider Cleveland a foreign country. So we gave my little brother the Cleveland. And he's a quarter white, a quarter black, and half Indian. So he does not look like he's from Cleveland. He looks like he's from some other place. So he rocks the Cleveland flag, and then people try to guess what country that is. But that's our family. And that's what part of what my story is. Part of what I realized was that family had very little to do with the DNA that was coursing through your veins. That family had very little to do with what your last name was or all those things. Because in reality, what made a family throughout history and in medieval times was, what is your last name? And then there was a time and place where it was like your skin color meant that you belonged to that group and not to this group. When in reality, those are medieval and barbaric ways of determining family. At some point, we evolved. We no longer kill each other for the food that we have. We no longer try to find ways where if I like your wife, then I kill you when I take her with me. That's not, and again, that is not appropriate. Just in case anybody's catching up, that is not okay tonight. But we evolved in so many different ways, and what we left behind oftentimes is our definitions of family. And so much of what I got to do was I got to watch all these families go through this process of adoption and of growing their family through adoption. That was a huge part of our story. And every time I met someone who was adopted, I would grab them by the arms and go, "You were picked! You were chosen!" Because I know my little brother, who's 10 years old, asked me about a month ago, he said, "Do you wish you were adopted?" And I said, because he hears me talk about adoption constantly. He goes, "Do you wish you were adopted?" I said, "You know what? If I was adopted, I know that this family would have found me. I know that my mom and dad, they crossed oceans to get all my brothers and sisters. I was the easy one. I just dropped out of her body. Like, I feel like that was just like they didn't have any choice there." But see, then about 4 years ago, we started adopttogether.org because I kept having conversations with people who wanted to figure out how to fund their adoption. Because at $55,000 or $60,000 bills, people say, adoption's just not for our family. You ever done that where you see a person with like an awesome car and you're like, "Yeah, I don't even like it." Why? Because you can't afford it. That's why you don't like that car. And a lot of times people go, adoption's not for a family because it's so expensive. 4 years ago, we started Adopt Together, and that was our first video we ever shot. It's the first thing we ever launched with, and we just turned it on and saw what happened. And 4 years ago, we launched it on my birthday for one family. And we have now raised over $8.1 million for 2,000 families to help them bring their kids home. It's been awesome. And it has been awesome because people have reimagined family. They've reimagined what it meant for them to grow their family. And I dream of a day somewhere in the future where no longer do people ask you, "How many kids are you going to have?" But they pause and they go, "How many kids are you going to adopt? How are you going to grow your family?" And so what I realized was that there was no day to celebrate adoption. Our team got together and we were like, we need to figure out how to celebrate adoption. We need to figure out how to celebrate like our $5 millionth dollar. And we have friends who have World Water Day, and you guys have World Water Day, and you get to celebrate because it's just there for you, because you do generosity water. And then I have friends that do eyeglasses, and they have World Sight Day. So I was like, we'll do something around World Adoption Day. But there's no such thing as World Adoption Day. Can you believe that? So we start Googling. It's like, that can't be true, because there's World Mountain Day and World Quinoa Day and World Rivers Day. There has to be a World Adoption Day. And come to find out there wasn't, so I called the United Nations, the International Office of Observance, which I was glad to find that phone number. And I got a hold of a guy, and I just said, "Hey, I would like to submit a day for international observance." He said, what day is that? I said, "It's called World Adoption Day." So, sorry, sir, are you an ambassador? And I was like, I'm an ambassador for the new World Adoption Day. I'm pretty excited about that. He goes, no. Are you a delegate? I said, I delegated myself to make this phone call. So, yes. He said, sir, if you do this, he goes, you can, it takes years, and it takes countries, and it takes politicking, and it takes lobbying. You can't just call and make this happen. I said, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to do it, and then you and we can figure out the legalities of the whole thing later. I said, sir, if you do it, it will not be real. I said, okay, touche. Except this right now is the International Year of Quinoa, and nobody knows that. So I'm going to make a day that everybody knows. And then you and I can figure that out later. He goes, good luck. So we started this day where we had everybody put a smiley face on their hand and use the hashtag World Adoption Day on November 9th, 2014, 2015. And yes, this November 9th, please mark your calendars and join us, because every single one of those is going to be compiled so that when we sit with the General Council of the United Nations and we go, we would like a day, me and 50,000 of my friends. And so I want to invite you to join us in this global celebration of adoption, because adoption is so deeply a part of my story. But I don't want you to join World Adoption Day just because it's a part of my story. Adoption is also a part of our story. Here's the deal. I have really bad news for you. God is insanely reckless. Have you ever noticed that? He is. He's a gambler. Have you ever noticed that? God dropped you off to two people that you did not know and biologically gave you to them in a hospital or in a bedroom or in a riverbed or wherever it is that you were born, people you didn't know, with friends that you didn't have, and you didn't even have the ability to communicate or vet them at all. You were dropped to two humans you didn't know, and did anyone give them a test to make sure that they could be parents? Background checks, anything? Did anybody make sure that they loved people or were not even sane? And God was like, yeah, totally, I'm just going to drop this kid in you. He's a tad reckless, is he not? See, do you know that a part of our story is that you were abandoned to earth from God to two people that you did not know? Every single one of us in this room, whether you are a king or you are a peasant, whether you are a president or you are a servant, no matter who you are, no matter what age you are, you did not know those people when you came out of that womb. And check this out. So what that does is that tends to level the field. You ever notice that? Where some people are like, well, I had these parents and I had these parents. You ever see a person who's a little cocky about their genetics? Somebody who's cocky about being beautiful? Like you had anything to do with that. Or someone who's like, yeah, well, this is my family. And it's like, right, yeah, you don't, oh, this is my last name, or this is whatever. Yeah, this is like God just sort of plopped you in. You had nothing, you did not earn that or get that. You just showed up there. You and all of us, we were abandoned to this planet. To see, this conversation about adoption is brand new. On the span of human history, adoption is only about 80 or 90 years old. Because prior to that, you know what it was? It was just the way people did things. You didn't have an adoption, you didn't have a ceremony, you didn't have legality. Johnny didn't have a mom and dad, so he became your son. My grandfather was adopted in 1929, and no one told him. His parents never told him, because it was something that was so hush-hush and so quiet, because they said, this is just the way it is. We're not going to even put that in his head or even tell him. His birth mother found him when he was 16 years old, and he kept a secret relationship with her until his adoptive parents passed away, because he never wanted them to think that there was something else happening. See, this is a brand new conversation. You know how long adoption's been around? It's an ancient and historical thing. Do you know the ancient Mexican folklore thought that there was a magical kingdom underneath the ocean? And that's where children lived. And they would come up the rivers, and then when a woman was pregnant and had a baby, that child just arrived. And then, you ever heard of the stork narrative? The stork narrative is that there's some other place where children are just sort of dropped into our lives. The Aborigines in Australia believed that the children lived in the rivers, and they would sneak up on you when you were sleeping, and then you just had a child. You were dropped to two humans that you didn't know. Some of us were dropped to one human that we didn't know. Adoption is a part of all of our story. See, all of us had a moment somewhere in our lives where those two humans who held us, or that one human who held us, had to choose. And see, God was a great gambler, because he said, I'm going to give you to this woman. I'm going to give you to this couple. I'm going to give you to this human. And then you didn't know what was going to happen, and he just trusted them with you. So right here in this room, you might have a person that you are genetically related to who let you down. You might be in this room right now, and that person who you were entrusted to left you or did not choose you. See, the story of adoption is a story of and. It's a story of a loss and a celebration of a family. And some of us are so unaware that we are also an adoption story. Because even though I was biologically dropped off to my two parents, they had a moment and a choice when they held my naked, cold, screaming body if they were going to love me and keep me and hold me and have me in their home or not. All of the people in your life, all of the family in your life, they chose you. All the people in your life, family throughout all of human history and family throughout the scriptures is a choice. It is a conversation that you have where you internally go, I don't care what his last name is, I don't care what his heritage is or his pedigree, he's my son. There's a passage of scripture that's so important for us to pay attention to in this conversation. In Romans chapter 8, verse 15, it says this, the spirit you received does not make you a slave, so that you live in fear again. Rather, the spirit you received brought about your adoption to sonship. And by him we cry, Abba, Father. See, adoption is all a part of our story. It's all a part of who we are. You have been adopted both physically and spiritually. When Jesus said that I will not leave you as orphans, he meant that all of us are being dropped off into this planet. Does anybody have a person you're related to that's crazy? Just by a show of hands. Does anybody have a person that you're related to that you're like, I seriously have no idea how that's possible, that I'm related to that person at all? Anybody have a person that you're not related to that you go, this person feels like God put the two of us together on this planet? You ever notice how sometimes there's people in your life that your DNA, it sets you on a certain course, but it's the people that you choose that you go, this person is family. See, this is also why it's so important for us to have things like churches. This is why it's so important for us to have a church, why it's so important to have Wagners in a city like Los Angeles who are going to build a church, why it's so important for you when you serve and when you lead and when you worship and when you come to this place and you're generous and you give, because you are building not just a church or a building, because if this disappeared, Oasis would still exist. And if all of the churches changed their names and their cool brands and all our Instagrams disappeared, the church would still exist because it's a family business. We're in the business of walking people from drifters in a city or from individuals in a city, or dare I use the word orphans in a city, to say you belong here, your family. Because you see, adoption is a part of our story, but adoption is also part of his story. See, adoption is a part of the story that God is weaving inside of your life. He's a part of everything that's actually happening internally inside of your life. Everything that God is doing in his communication with you and in the way he relates to you is to pull you closer and pull you closer to him and pull you closer to others. So what we can't do is we can't limit ourselves to a medieval understanding of what family really is. So whenever I hear people say, I don't have any family in Los Angeles, I throw up a little bit in my mouth. Because if you have a church, you have a family. Because if you choose people, or if I ask that person, then why haven't you chosen any family here? I have people in Los Angeles that we have done Easter and Christmas and we've done dinners with that we call family dinners for the last 10 years. My family are the people that I said, we're family. We're going to move together through this world. You and I are going to walk together in this world. We're going to stay together in this world. You're going to bring drama to me, and I'm going to hate you sometimes, and we're going to go through madness, and we don't share any DNA or last names, but we're family, and we're going to stick this thing out. See, this is the process by which God is saying, your soul and your spirit stepped into this earth to strangers. And then, yeah, you got last names and you got DNA, but that stuff is that was just the starter kit. That is just what got you started. But really, family is the people that you look in the eyes and you say, come hell or high water, we're walking together in this. It's when you make a commitment to the people in your life to go, you can be crazy and you can be wild. My bio family is crazy. The people I share DNA and last names with is crazy. But I pick you. You're mine. We're walking together in this. And those people can shape you. And those people can move in you. So what I want to invite you to do is a couple of things. I want to invite you to do a few things. I'm going to invite you to just, for the first one, is I want to invite you to sort of let go, that together as a community tonight, we could let go of those medieval ideas of what family really is. And that we could decide that no longer is skin color or DNA or last names going to draw lines between communities and people and families. Can we do that? See, I just wonder at what point we're going to move forward as a society, move forward as a church, and decide that DNA and genetics, that you weren't born a skin color because you chose it when you were young, you got it, you were born with it, you woke up with it at some point, you started screaming and crying with it, and then you've had it your whole life. So for us to separate each other by skin color is embarrassing as a society. What we have to do is start to realize that's just DNA and blood cells, and those things are all going to be gone. But we have souls inside of each other, and we have to decide that those are medieval, old-school, tribal ideas, and we are moving to the future, where we love each other, and we go, we can be family, I don't care what color you are. My entire life has been, I've been stared at. All of those 36 foster kids who came through our home were all African American. I am the whitest emoji you've ever seen in your life. I'm just a white dude. So imagine me having an African-American brother on my shoulders, my Bolivian sister over here, and my Chinese brother over here, and we're walking through a grocery store. I mean, people would walk past us, walk through the aisle, look over, stop, and then take 2 steps back and be like, what is going on here? Trying to figure out, they wondered if we were a social program. And my little brother, as he started to be aware, was 7 years old, he said, Hank, why do people stare at us so much? And I said, because they've never seen a family so beautiful. Because there is something. So when you decide in your life that DNA and last names are not going to limit family, and you're never going to utter those words again, I don't have any family in Los Angeles. But you're going to lean in and you're going to decide, see, it's going to be the people that I lean in and choose. I'm going to love you and I'm going to care for you. Even if, think about this for just a second. Okay, we'll think about this in 2 different categories. One is, and if I offend you, I'm so sorry, but I won't be here next week. So Jordan and the Wagners, they didn't do this. Anybody here love animals? Wonderful. Okay, good. Anyone here love their dog, let's say? Awesome. Okay, you're the people that I'm sort of afraid of right now. Okay. Have you noticed that people unconditionally love animals in a way that they do not unconditionally love dogs or humans? You ever notice that? I'll give you an example. Your dog has pooped on something you owned, correct? Yeah. And you still have it, right? And you still love it and cuddle it and love it so much. But if I came over to your house and pooped on your stuff, I'm going to bet a small wager we're not going to be friends. If you poop on anything I own, we're done. It's over. But you know what I bet you did when your dog pooped on your stuff? You didn't even make it clean it up. You cleaned it up and then cuddled it later and loved it so much. They have unconditional love for pets. But you know what gets on my nerves sometimes? Especially part of my story, and this is the part where it's like sort of a little bit weird, is people say they adopted their dog. And I just usually go, no, you did not. Why? Because if he breaks his hip, you're going to kill him. You're going to like put him down. Have you ever heard, I put him down. I'm not going to my little brother who we adopted and be like, man, I know baseball is like a really fun sport, but if you get a hip injury, we're going to have to put you down. And I don't want to, please don't make me choose that. So please be careful. That's not the case. You know what you did is you rescued your animal. What I want to submit to are we okay, dog people? Are we good? We're good, okay. We're kind of okay, because I gave you the whole, like, you love the poop thing, you're like unconditional. But what I want to do is, I would love for the conversation to shift just a little bit, that you rescue animals and you adopt humans. See, what that means is that if you adopt a human, that means that their hips can break and that they can freak out on you and that they can cry. See, when I had a daughter, that's when I started to realize that it's a lot like having a pet. Because all they do is poop and throw up all over you. And all they do is cry and they give nothing back. My daughter, all she did was cry. She takes from me sleep. She takes from me fun. She takes from me freedom. She takes from me sex. She takes all these things from me. And you know what she gives me in return? She's my daughter. And I have to believe that in the future, we're going to have a lot of fun together. But you know what? All the while, I'm paying for everything. But somehow as a parent, that registers like, yeah, oh, it's the joy of fatherhood. And then you meet dads and they're like, oh my gosh, that's the coolest thing in the world. And I'm like, wait, let me get this straight. We as dads who are pumped about being dads and love our daughters so much and can't wait to Instagram about them, and I'm the worst. If you follow me on Instagram, you're going to see like a kid every 36 hours. I love that. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I am feeding this child, paying for everything. She's pooping all over me. Happened earlier today, had to change my pants. I'm going through this process with a person that I could not love more. And if she threw up all over me, I would hold her tight and be like, I'm glad I get to be the person that you get to throw up on. But you know what's crazy? is that then when our friends frustrate us or make us mad or we misinterpret a text message or an email, we go, I guess we're done. When we have conflict or we have something happen, we go, okay, I guess that's over. When we misinterpret something about each other, see, we are more loving to our animals and our kids than we are to each other. No wonder we're having such a deficit of family in our culture. Because we just don't realize that if you're going to choose family and call someone family, if you're going to say that, you don't get to put them down when they get injured and they need a lot from you. You don't get to put them away or tell someone else to handle them when they need something in the middle of the night or they start to get really high maintenance or when they poop on your clothes. You don't get to walk away from them when they need something or when they're hurting or, heaven forbid, when they hurt you. See, we have to move into a place where we have redefined and reimagined what family is. Family is an unwavering, unflinching commitment to the people that you say, we are family, we don't walk away from each other like this. We want an unwavering, unflinching commitment to look at someone in the face and say, we don't share a last name or DNA, but we are not walking away from one another. We are going to stay together in this. See, this is what God did when he spoke these words to the disciples and said, I will not leave you as orphans. I will come for you. So one thing I want to invite you to do is I want to invite you to put away all those medieval ideas and all those old, ancient, barbaric thoughts that we are tribal because of our skin color or our last name, and move forward and go, I get to choose my family and I get to pick who I love. And if you have a crazy family member, I want to give you license to stay closer to other people than the ones that you are biologically connected to. So let me clarify that. If you have a crazy family member that you feel like is sucking the absolute life out of you, I want to give you license to call other people who you are not biologically connected to family and say, I need you because I got to deal with these people, so I'm going to call these people family and we're all family. Not where you go, well, this person's family and this person's just a friend. But I want to invite you to create a community, create a narrative in your life where we start to go, these people are family. And then I want to ask you this question. When you grow your family and when you grow your life, when you grow your family and when you look forward to your future, is adoption going to be right for your story? Are there children on our planet? See, what wakes me up in the middle of the night, see, what keeps a weight on my chest throughout my life is that there are over 19 million kids in this world who don't have a mother or father that call them their son or daughter. In Los Angeles alone, we have 46,000 kids in foster care. In the United States, we have 500,000 in foster care. Every single year, 25,000 of them age out. When they age out, they're handed a black bag and said, good luck. 56% of them will be homeless that very next day. 25% of them will be unemployed chronically, maybe even for the rest of their life. And 80% of those in America's prisons came out of our foster care system. 8 out of 10 came out of our foster care system here in the United States. That around the world, the reason that this weighs on me so heavily is because all of us have seen adoption, and all of us have seen foster care, and all of us have seen that transition from orphan to family as something that happened to someone else because I know my biological family. But it's true. All of us were abandoned at birth to 2 people we did not know, and they chose us. And so it's on us as humanity. It's on us as Los Angeles. It's on us as the people of the church to say it's not okay to let 19 million kids out there not have a mom or a dad or be called a son or a daughter. It's not okay for 500,000 kids to age out and for 13 kids every single day become homeless in Los Angeles because they age out of the foster care system. We will never keep up to those numbers. We will never empty our prisons fast enough. Our goal is not to find ways where we can stop all these problems that are just the symptoms of the issue, that what we all really need is a family. See, what God came to do is bring us all together as a family. So I want to invite you to start very, very close to your soul and to your life. I want to invite you to decide who's my family, and I want you to have conversations with them. Grab people by the shoulder and go, I want you to know we're family. This weird preacher came to visit my church, and he talked to us about family. I want you to know that we're family, and if you poop on my stuff and throw up on me, I'm going to be family with you. I'm not done with you, and we're going to stick this out. And then I want you to start even a little bit broader and start to go, who in my world needs family, and how can I help them find one? Maybe that means that you surround a family who's adopting and you say, we're going to give and we're going to find a way that they can be a part of their story. Maybe that's somebody that you find that you go, this person, they just haven't picked their family yet, or they keep saying this story that they don't have any family in Los Angeles. I'm going to introduce them to my church. I'm going to introduce them to leaders, and I'm going to introduce them to people that are going to be their family. It's not okay for me. When I came to Los Angeles, I was overwhelmed. The reason that I became a preacher, the reason that I stepped in is because I just couldn't handle the fact that people ate by themselves. I had never seen a place in the world of people who went to the beach alone. I walked around the beach, I just thought, there's something wrong. Why aren't these people talking to each other? Oh, because they came by themselves. Now I know some people are like, I just came to calm down. I just came to do that thing. There's so many people who move to Los Angeles and say, there's so many people here, but I just feel so alone. See, that is what I want us as a community of people who move in faith to move together and go, no. We're going to bring family to Los Angeles, whether we have the same skin color or DNA or last name. We're going to help people find family in our city. And then I want to invite you to see the people in your life and realize that so many people don't know their story. They don't know that all of us have an adoption story. It's all a part of who we are. And if you're here in this room, I want you to know that what God did when he dropped all of us and risked all of us and gambled all of us on the humans that had us, that were our biological family, he made a statement that all life is precious. He made a statement that all life is precious because if you and I were not taken care of by that mom and that dad, you know what he had? Why else do you think we have aunties and uncles and grandparents? Why else did he have communities of people? Why else did he have groups of people like churches and communities? See, he built in all these places where he made sure that life was precious. See, it's so important that you know that not a single person in this room is ever a mistake. Not a single person in this room was ever an accident. Not a single person in this room ever just happened upon the earth like, where did I go? God had a thing for you. He had a moment for you, and you are a precious life. And he found you people, and he's finding you people, and you might go, God's never found any people for me. You are here tonight in a place that you can be trusted as a community of people, and God is walking with you. He just wants you to hear it loud and clear. Your life is precious. Your life is precious. And your life has something. God wants to accomplish something. He wants to do something. He wants to move in you. The thing he keeps doing in me is that he keeps helping me find ways and places where I can help families join and connect. He keeps finding ways and places where I get to speak at things like TEDx, and I show up in places where I go, I'm a white guy emoji who grew up in a weird family, and I was a 7-year-old kid with a diaper bag on his shoulder, and I wore spandex everywhere. And I'm asking myself the question, what am I doing here? I went to a NASCAR race yesterday. Any NASCAR fans in the house? You and me, man. All right. Yeah, like I didn't even know, like a NASCAR race to me is like, I don't even know what I expected, like funnel cakes and stuff. The food wasn't good. It was weird. It was loud. I felt like I was going to fall over. And I'm at a NASCAR race, and I'm down on the field, and I'm watching this whole thing happen. And the focus of this entire NASCAR race was called Drive Adoption. And their goal was to help those 90,000 people who were there find all the adoption resources that they need. And I got to be a part of that event. And I go, what is God doing that he would place us at the middle of this? See, the minute you take a deep breath and you realize that you were adopted, whether it was by the biological people who had you or by the people in your life who leaned in, who put their arm around you and called you family, by your church, by your loved ones, by your friends, when you take a deep breath and you go, I start with my family, and then I realize that God has something he placed on me. My life is precious. And God wants to do something. When you take a deep breath and you realize that God wants to do something with that precious life of yours, you will find that God is going to put you in places where you go, what am I doing here? I want to invite you to take a deep breath and start to look around and say, who is my family? I want to invite you to join me, invite you to join us as we celebrate things like World Adoption Day, as we move forward to follow those words that Jesus spoke, I will not leave you as orphans. See, when he said, I will not leave you as orphans, my guess is people were like, oh, Jesus is coming back. And people have interpreted that and realized that, well, I'm not really an orphan, and I know my family, or if I don't know my bio family, at least I have family, so I'm not that person anymore. And what Jesus was describing is that all of us have been placed on this planet, and when he says, I will come for you, what he meant is that his people will come for you. That there are people in this world who go, yeah, Jesus hadn't come for me yet. It's just because we haven't found them. We are the people. Those people that you work with, they don't know if anyone is their family or loves them until you tap them on the shoulder and say, a bunch of us are going to have lunch. Will you stop eating by yourself? Those people in your workplace, those people in your dorm, those people in your apartment complex, those people in your world, they don't know that Jesus came for them until you grab them by the shoulder and you go, do you want to play volleyball with us? Do you want to come have dinner with us? Do you want to come be family with us? Do you want to come puke on somebody's stuff and I'll love you anyways? They just don't want to wear. So I want to invite you to join me in imagining a new world. A world where family is not DNA and family is not last names. But family are the people that we choose and we say, these are the ones that we're going to love come hell or high water. And what I want to invite you into a world is I want to invite you into a world where we start to see that every child in foster care and every child in an orphanage and every child without a mother and a father, they're part of our story too. And we have to embrace them lest we go generation after generation after generation and we just decide it's just not enough. We need to decide that there can be a world where there's a family for every child. There can be a world where we can all embrace them. So here in this room, I'm curious. As I close and as we wrap up our conversation tonight, I'm curious, is there anyone here, just by a show of hands so that we can celebrate you and your life, is there anyone here who's been adopted? We're so glad you're here. Now, based on my conversation tonight, I want you to know, and I'm so grateful that you're here and that you would raise your hand and that's part of your story, but all of us have an adoption story as a part of our life. So I'm going to ask everybody one more time. Is there anybody here that was dropped onto this planet to two strangers and they chose you? And maybe those bio people were crazy and you ran from them so fast because you're like, they're nuts, they're gonna make me crazier. But you found other people and you found uncles and aunties and people who called you family and brought you in. Is there anyone in this room who's adopted just by a show of hands? See, it's a part of all of our story. And see, what I'm so grateful for is I'm grateful for a God that says, I will not leave you as orphans. I will come for you. So if you're here tonight, I want to invite you to something. If you're here tonight and you would say, I've never had that conversation with God. If you're here tonight and you would say, I've never been in that place where I felt like I was connected to God in that way, or that God came for me, or that God moved for me, and I want you to know that if you're here tonight, what Jesus did is he stepped into human history to make sure that you as a soul and you as a person, you were never left as an orphan. And so if you're here tonight and you would say, man, I've never connected my life to Jesus in that way. And if he came for me, and if he's coming for me, and if the church can be my family, if faith can be my family, then I want in on that. And if that's you tonight, I want to give you an opportunity to choose that as we pray together. So that you could say, see, I realize that what Jesus did is that he came to this planet to make sure I'm a part of his family. Because adoption is a part of my story. And adoption is a part of our story. But adoption is a part of his story. And all that God has ever wanted from you is so that you would call him family. And at the moment that you stepped into a relationship with him through faith, that you became a part of a family. And then no matter what country you went to and what place you went to, when you found a person who shared your faith, you go, oh, we're family. A brother and a sister. I always thought that was really weird when people in churches would be like, oh, this is Brother Hank. And I'd be like, okay, that sounds cool. Or like Sister Sue Ann. We've heard the phrases like that. You go, okay. All they're doing is they're externalizing the language of faith, which means that when you share a faith, you become family. So I'm going to invite you to pray with me. And as we pray together, I want to invite you to a couple things. If you're here tonight and you'd say, I want to choose Jesus, and I want to connect to Jesus and connect my life to Jesus for the very first time, I'm going to have you raise your hand. And then if you're here in this room and you would say, what I need is I need to release those old school, old ways of imagining family. And I need to let go of all those things where I haven't been committed to that family. I'm more committed to my pet than I am my family or my friends. And I'm going to give you a chance to let go of those things too. So if you would you bow your heads and we'll pray together. God, we thank you for this room. We thank you for this family, this church family, this oasis. God, this place that represents refreshment and represents life in the midst of a place that can feel like a desert. But we know that Oasis isn't just a church. Oasis is who you are to us in a world where our soul is suffocating for air, suffocating for a life-giving sense of water. So in this room tonight, I know that there are those of us, God, in this room who have yet to connect our life to you, that tonight's that night, that we say, we know that you came for us, and that you didn't leave us as slaves, and you didn't abandon us to this earth, but you came for us, and that you want to call us family. And so for all those in this room, if that's you and you're here with heads bowed and eyes closed, if you're here and you would say, God, I want to choose you. I want to choose life. I want to choose to be a part of that. I want to choose to call God Father. If that's you, I just invite you to raise your hand high in the air. With all these heads bowed and all these eyes closed, just stick your hand high in the air. I see those hands. I see those hands. God, I pray for those hands that are in the air right now. Keep them high. I ask, God, that these hands that are high in the air right now, that as they choose you, God, that they would know that what happens is they shift, that they change, that they accept that invitation to be a part of their family. If your hand's high in the air, I just want you to whisper these words with me. Jesus, I choose you. I receive your love. I receive your adoption. And I call you Father. You can lower your hands. With heads bowed and eyes closed, if you're here in this room and you'd say, man, I've been more committed to my pet than I have my family. I have not accepted who I was and that I have family here in Los Angeles. I haven't opened up to them, and I just need to release some of that stuff. The most helpful thing we can do sometimes is just to kind of let things go and let them out and just say, we don't need these anymore. So if that's you and you go, hey, tonight I'm going to change my mind. Family does not look the way I thought it was. Family's going to look the way that I'm going to make it in the future. I'm going to let go of my idea of family and take God's idea of family. If that's you, I just want you to stick your hand high in the air so I can pray for you. God, I thank you for these hands. I thank you for these lives. And ask God that in this room, for every family ideal that would shift, for every concept of family that would change, I ask God that right here in this place, that you would bring about brothers and sisters that the people with their hands high in the air never knew they had. That you would give them eyes to see the ones that you brought them into this life to love, precious lives that are everywhere. And I ask that that would shift and that would change tonight. God, I thank you so much. You can put your hands down. God, I thank you so much for this room. I thank you so much for this place. And I pray, God, for the family that will erupt in this building and in this room and with these people from today forward. We pray all of this in the name of your Son, Jesus. And together we said, amen. Thank you guys so much for having me and for letting me be a part of this. I appreciate it.